Hi, this presentation is on competitive generic therapies 180-day exclusivity or CGT 180-day exclusivity in USA. FDA Reauthorization Act of 2017 created a pathway by which FDA may, at request of applicant, designate a drug as competitive generic therapy if there is an inadequate generic competition for that drug. Section 803 of FDA Reauthorization Act amended FDC Act to add Section 506H, which established a new process to designate and expedite the development and review of certain drugs for which there is an inadequate generic competition. At request of applicant, FDA may expedite the development and review of ANDA or generic application if the drug has been designated as CGT or competitive generic therapy. The Act provides statutory provision for 180-day CGT exclusivity for ANDA or generic application if it has been designated as CGT. Aim of CGT exclusivity. The provisions of the Act associated with CGT or competitive generic therapies are intended to incentivize effective development, efficient review, and timely market entry of drugs for which there is inadequate generic competition. To facilitate the increased competition for these products, FDA may take certain actions to expedite the development and review of ANDA or generic application for that drug that has been designated as CGT or competitive generic therapy. Coming to CGT 180-day exclusivity in a little bit more detail, FDA Reauthorization Act created this new type of 180-day CGT exclusivity which is different from 180-day patent challenge or generic para 4 exclusivity, and it is given for products for which there is a less generic competition and for which there is no unexpired patent or exclusivities listed in the Orange Book at time of original submission of ANDA or generic application. So this 180-day exclusivity is granted for a product if it has been designated as CGT because of inadequate generic competition and that product has no unexpired patent or exclusivity listed in the Orange Book. Once getting the CGT designation, once after getting the CGT designation, the applicant has to obtain the approval of ANDA or generic application, and he has to market the generic product within 75 days of approval of generic application. And if he fails to market the drug within 75 days of approval, then this 180-day CGT exclusivity will be forfeited. And this 180-day CGT exclusivity is triggered by the first commercial marketing of product which has been designated as CGT or competitive generic therapy. FDA also intends to permit the applicant or the first approved applicant to relinquish or waive the 180-day exclusivity or 180-day CGT exclusivity if he wants. This waiver of exclusivity can either be general waiver for all the companies, or it may be selective waiver in favor of just one company. If the waiver is generic for all the companies, then the waiver can be done at any time, regardless of whether that exclusivity has been triggered or not triggered. But if the waiver is in favor of particular company, that is selective waiver, then that will happen only after triggering of the exclusivity. Means only after start of exclusivity the selective waiver can be given. The 180-day exclusivity under FDA Reauthorization Act or CGT exclusivity is intended to incentivize competition for the drugs that are not protected by patents or exclusivities and for which there is inadequate generic competition. Now coming to criteria for determining inadequate generic competition. FDA may designate a drug as CGT or competitive generic therapy after determining that there is inadequate generic competition for that drug. And in determining whether there is inadequate generic competition, the FDA will look in the Orange Book only. If in the Orange Book not more than one drug is listed, that is, if only one drug is listed in the Orange Book, or if there is no drug listed in the Orange Book, in that case, that drug is eligible for CGT designation. So even if there is no drug listed in the Orange Book, maybe because company has withdrawn or discontinued the marketing of that product, maybe because of less sales or less revenues, even then that product is eligible for CGT designation. Now coming to application for CGT designation. Each applicant who wishes to request the designation of a drug as CGT or competitive generic therapy, he should submit a request to FDA for such designation. And once FDA designates a product as a CGT, then that product will remain designated as CGT even if later on the condition of inadequate generic competition goes off. Means if there is a no inadequate generic competition condition after getting designation of CGT, the CGT designation will remain. FDA intends to make the determination of CGT designation within 60 calendar days of receipt of application. Means within 60 days, FDA will determine the designation of CGT, whether it is granted or not granted. And decision on CGT designation grant or not grant will be communicated to applicant through FDA correspondence. FDA in assessing whether inadequate generic competition for a particular drug exists will rely on information contained in Orange Book at time when it makes the determination of CGT designation. So FDA will rely on FDA Orange Book database. Applicant may submit the request for CGT designation either concurrently with the ANDA generic application or at any time prior to the ANDA or generic application submission. FDA will not consider requests for designation as timely if they are submitted after submission of original ANDA or generic application, except when the generic application or ANDA has been refused to receive by FDA, maybe because of insufficient information or data. In that case, applicant can submit the CGT designation application and then can refile that ANDA or generic application. That's all in this presentation. Thank you very much.